You're now within minutes of horror because we may have our first clue as to what's going on here with all these crazy plane stories in the news lately. People have been seeing a lot of scary things on planes lately that have been causing them to panic, including ghosts, demons, and MFers. People, including myself, that have been following these stories for a long time are absolutely stumped as to what's going on here. Are these people actually seeing something? Or are they trying to get their 15 minutes of TikTok fame? Or is something else actually happening here that is a lot more sinister than we're led to believe? Now, people believe I only make videos about planes, but no matter what video I make, no matter what style of video I make, whether it involves planes, UFOs, animals, or the weather, or even AI, it always circles back to climate change, the World Economic Forum, and ultimately at the end of it all, the 2030 agenda. Now, like I said, there are a few theories circulating around these plane stories, these plane events, and some of the top theories are that these people could be taking narcotics, there could be mental illness, some people actually do believe demons are at play here, or people that are taking the jab is not mixing well with them at high altitudes, including 5G. But one of my absolute favorite theories, matter of fact, I'll put it in my top 3, is that the powers that be just don't want us to fly. They want to scare us from flying and limit flying. And out of all the theories, there actually could be some solid proof to this. In September, a poll came out where a shocking number of Europeans say you should only be able to fly 4 times in your life due to climate change. Now, while this article does say Europe, you're thinking everybody in Europe supports this. No, it's only limited down to France. French citizens do support banning people from flying more than 4 times in their lives due to climate change. This poll from research firm Consumer Science and Analytics Institute found that 41% of citizens would support such a limit. That number rose to 59% support among 18 to 24-year-olds. The suggested limit would apply to air travel for business and pleasure. So what they are saying is this is even worse for people who have to fly for business-related reasons, where it's mandatory for you to fly. You won't be flying for vacation or personal reasons at all. Now, I wasn't really concerned about this poll or really talked about this poll because it pretty much just narrows down to France and a younger crowd. But we still do have climate activists across the globe pushing for wide-ranging restrictions aimed at reducing carbon emissions, from limiting car travel to banning plastic straws. There have been people even targeting cows. In the United States, Joe Biden's administration has issued its own restrictions on gas-powered furnaces. But going back to travel, when it comes to public transportation, planes, trains, buses, cruises, planes are the absolute worst offenders when it comes to carbon emissions in their eyes. Even though planes are the worst offenders when it comes to public transportation, they really want to get rid of gas-powered cars. They want to do away with them and get people to stop driving them. They want people to start taking buses, trains, riding a bike, or even buying an electric vehicle, a very hackable, easily hackable electric vehicle. You had who looks like he's wearing his best Show Enough from The Last Dragon costume, Klaus Schwab, come out and say, "We don't want people driving gas-powered cars in California by 2030. Matter of fact, we're going to go ahead and turn California's highways into parks." But they know stopping almost everybody in the United States from driving gas-powered cars is going to be an uphill battle. It's going to be very, very difficult. So they are targeting the next mode of transportation, which is airplanes. Stopping people from flying and still controlling their way of traveling is a lot easier than stopping people from driving gas-powered cars. That small poll in France has now turned into something bigger. Other countries, including the United States, now want to create carbon passports. The summer of 2023 was very significant for the travel industry. By the end of July, international tourist arrivals globally reached 84% of the pre-pandemic levels. In some European countries such as France, Denmark, and Ireland, tourism demand even surpassed its pre-pandemic level. Now, while this does sound great for the economy, they are saying this is actually a negative towards climate change, and this is contributing to extreme weather we have been seeing across the globe. Coincidence may have it, they contribute flying to being one of the main factors behind the wildfires in Greece and Hawaii, and extreme weather warnings that were issued in many popular holiday destinations like Portugal, Spain, and Turkey. So what they're also saying is that planes shut off the water in Maui to stop water from coming out of fire hydrants to help the citizens combat the fire. Planes also blocked exits, stopping people from fleeing the fires as well. Planes also broke all the alarms in Maui to stop people from getting any early warnings that may have saved more lives. Ooh, I just hate those rascally planes. So all these extreme weathers that we're seeing, like that hurricane in Acapulco that from overnight went from a tropical storm to a category 5 in just 12 hours. It just sat there and immediately became a category 5. They are attributing these extreme conditions to climate change. So what do they attribute to the negative effects of climate change? Well, tourism. Tourism is part of the problem. The tourism sector generates around 1/10 of greenhouse gas emissions that are driving the climate crisis. The negative impacts of tourism on the environment have become so severe, check out the keyword, so severe, that some are suggesting drastic changes to our travel habits are inevitable. In a report from 2023 that analyzed the future of sustainable travel, tour operator Intrepid Travel proposed that carbon passports will soon become a reality if the tourism industry hopes to survive. So in all my videos, I really like to connect the dots. I like to put 2 and 2 together. In 2023, they are researching the negative effects of travel on climate change. They have found out that travel plays a big part in the negative effects of climate change. They want to come up with ways to limit us from traveling so we can help combat that big bad boogeyman known as climate change. And well, what do you know? In 2023, we are seeing just a rise, just an explosion of crazy and scary plane stories. And trust me, I'm not just talking about people seeing things on planes, one person going berserk and acting demonic. I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about stories where planes, airliners are using older parts, fake parts on planes, the most important parts of the plane, such as turbine blades and engines. Then we had all these near hits in the skies. In July alone of 2023, there were 46 near collisions where 2 major airplanes almost collided into one another. So close that some of them are only 100 feet apart, and these planes travel 500 miles per hour. Not only are pilots dropping left and right from heart attacks, but we also had a pilot who took mushrooms and wanted to bring down the whole plane. We had pilots pulling out weapons. What has always been known for years upon years as the gold standard of transportation, the safest mode of transportation, if you were scared of flying, people would say, well, you have higher odds of getting into a car crash than a plane crash, has now become, as of 2023 out of nowhere, the scariest mode of transportation. All one needs to do is to connect the 2 dots as to why it has become so scary. Because, once again, like I said, they are looming that negativity that travel has over climate change. But I guess these scare tactics that we are seeing are not working because people are flying still in record numbers. Not my ass, but people regardless are still flying. I am not going to be involved in a PSYOP 30,000 feet in the air in a metal tube. You really do just have to pick your battles. But like I said, since these scare tactics are not working, they proposed a carbon passport. So what exactly is a carbon passport? The idea of a carbon passport centers on each traveler being assigned a yearly carbon allowance that they cannot exceed. These allowances can then ration travel. Now, the idea of carbon allowance is not new. The idea was discussed by the United Kingdom Parliament in 2008, but it was shut down to its perceived complexity, and the concept was seen to be extreme. But now they are bringing it back because to them, they now have proof that travel is affecting the climate. So they are going to use climate change to introduce this carbon passport. Now they're stating the average annual carbon footprint for a person in the United States is 16 tons, one of the highest rates in the world. In the United Kingdom, this figure sits at 11.7 tons, still more than 5 times the figure recommended by the Paris Agreement to keep global temperature rise below 1.5 Celsius, 2.7 Fahrenheit, above pre-industrial levels. There was an article that came out on August 30th of 2023. Scientists warn that 1 billion people are on track from losing their lives from climate change. This article continues to state if the world reaches temperatures 2 Celsius above the average global pre-industrial temperature, which is what we are on track for in the coming decades, then that is a lot of lives lost. For every 0.1 Celsius degree of warming from now on, the world could suffer roughly over 100 million lives lost. Anonymously, it says, obviously we have to act, and we have to act fast. Now, like I said, they are really blaming travel for the rise in temperatures. Globally, the average annual carbon footprint for a person is closer to 4 tons, but to have the best chance of preventing temperature to rise from overshooting 2 Celsius, the average global carbon footprint needs to drop to under 2 tons by 2050. This figure equates to around 2 round-trip flights between London and New York. Reports predict that we will see carbon passports in action by 2040. However, several laws and restrictions have been put in place over the past year that suggest our travel habits may already be on the verge of change, that these carbon passports may come earlier than expected. I'll be honest, I think 2040 is too far away. I don't see them enacting something like this in 2040. I see something like this happening just before 2030, maybe 2028, 2029, if not before then. Between 2013 and 2018, the amount of carbon emitted from commercial aircraft worldwide increased by 32%. Improvements in fuel efficiency are slowly reducing per passenger emissions, but research from 2014 found that whatever the industry's efforts to reduce in carbon emissions, they will be outweighed by growth in air traffic. So what they're saying is no matter what they do, it's not working because there's just way too many people wanting to travel. There's just way too many planes in the skies. So if you don't think some of these scary plane stories that are coming out are trying to discourage people from flying, well, they actually have been trying to come up with ways to discourage people from flying, including raising ticket prices. They were even nice enough to do the math. For emission reductions to have any meaningful effect, ticket prices would have to rise by 1.4% each year, discouraging some people from flying. However, in reality, ticket prices have actually been falling. Some European countries are beginning to take measures to reduce air travel. As of April 1st, 2023, passengers on short-haul flights and older aircraft in Belgium have been subject to increased taxes to encourage alternate forms of travel. Less than 2 months later, France banned short-haul domestic flights where the same trip can be made by train in 2.5 hours or less. Spain is expected to follow suit, and I wouldn't doubt one bit that the United States is going to follow what Europe here is doing because, like I said, the one who's controlling everything, the one who is giving these orders, are not the airliners, are not the government, it's the World Economic Forum. So again, let's connect everything together. As of 2023, not only does the World Economic Forum, but also all these countries around the world are coming up with multiple ways to discourage people from flying and have them take alternate modes of transportation. And as of 2023, we are hearing just an abundance of plane stories that are discouraging people from flying. So it looks like we could possibly have on our hands here some inside jobs going on. Isn't it funny? Isn't it bizarre? Isn't it just a coincidence that everything that seems to be going on in today's world always seems to connect back to climate change? Scary plane stories, these extreme weathers like in Hawaii, even sicknesses seem to connect back to climate change. Now, of course, with these rules in place to restrict travel, this only affects us little people, us peons, us bottom feeders. But the so-called elite, the rich and powerful, who have their private jets that cause more emissions against the climate than anything else, they will not be restricted when it comes to flying. Isn't that just how crazy this world works? In any case, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please like, as any engagement does help the channel grow. Once again, thank you so much for your support.